We'd like to start off, I'd like to ask Jeffrey Richards to start off leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if he would. And ask Eric to give us an opening ceremony.
Everyone, please rise if you can. Pledge allegiance after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we come before Thee at this time. We're thankful for the many blessings that we have. We're thankful for the moisture that we're receiving. We pray that Thou will continue to bless us, that we'll be able to get the moisture that we need to sustain our farms and our way of life. And we're thankful for the opportunity that we have to serve the good citizens of this community. We're thankful for them and for the things that they do and that they're about. We pray that as we meet tonight, that we'll be able to have clear minds, that we'll be able to make decisions that we need to, that will be in the best interest of this community. And we pray that Thou wilt bless those who serve and protect us and protect our freedoms. And Father, we're grateful indeed for our many blessings. We love Thee and say this thing in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I'd like to thank Jeffrey and Eric for their participation there. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. We'll ask for the council to look at the one set of warrants in the meeting minutes of October 12th. Entertain any questions or a motion.
Mayor, I have one question on page 1. The active power engineering that said a system study, just maybe tie what were we studying? It says systems study.
Let's see. Well, we had more than one. One was a fuse coordination study, and then the other one is for SCADA implementation. So where to put what devices so that we could segment the system. So
Gave you the information you needed, huh?
yep, yeah, it turned out well.
Then just one comment on minutes on page 7. There were 2 roll call votes and the minutes called them unanimous where they were not. There was a dissenting vote. About the middle and then up to the top there. Yep. That's all I had. Thank you.
Another question, Tony.
Mayor, on page 5 is Solomon Corporation.
It's a new set of skis for the outgoing mayor.
So
Water?
no power. Yeah, it's a supplier for power. So it's a new service install. I can't remember what it's called, but do you remember a little while ago when we decided to do that meter, that power meter?
Oh, yeah.
Power meter based thing. So we've had some of those come in. So it's just supplies for that install. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. I couldn't remember the name of that because it's been a little bit.
So we've had some interest.
Yeah, we've had quite a few people interested in that. So
What that is for listeners, for those people in their own home would like to have a backup source of electricity, like hooking a generator of some type. This is a unit that we hook into their system to allow them to hook a generator to their current electrical system in the house. Other questions? Or a motion?
Mayor,
Tony?
I will make a motion that we approve the city council hybrid meeting minutes of October 12th, 2021, and the warrants.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, motion by Tony, second by Jeffrey. So we approve the city council hybrid meeting minutes of October 12th, 2021, and the one set of warrants. Is there any discussion on that motion? There's no, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, that passed unanimously, the city minutes and the warrants. Okay, second item on the agenda is a presentation. We have Cindy Hatch with us. Cindy, if you'd like to come up the mic, and the time is yours to present what you'd like to. Maybe introduce yourself first to us.
Okay, I'm Cindy Hatch, and I've been asked to present what we're doing in Morgan for humanitarian aid. I am part of the Relief Society of the Morgan, Utah Stake of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I also happen to be the area manager for the Morgan area for Stitching Hearts, which is a nonprofit organization helping needy around the world. And we have recently, as part of those two positions that I hold, we have converted the basement of the Family History Center here in town into a humanitarian center. And we have sewing machines, sergers, and quilting frames and looms to make sleeping mats for the homeless. So this is a display of some of the things that we do. And I just wanted to let you know of some of the projects that we're working on right now. We basically, our goal is to help those that are in need and less fortunate than us. We found that there isn't very much need within Morgan, and so we've set our sights to the Wasatch Front and all along Utah and then worldwide. And so some of the projects that we're working on right now is these sleeping mats for the homeless. That's what this is with a pillow. The Veterans Administration in Salt Lake City has requested 300 of them. And so we've been working to provide those to the homeless. They say that it compared to sleeping on the ground, it makes them much warmer with the insulation. They're made out of recycled plastic grocery sacks. So instead of ending up in landfills, they're put to good use. Some of the other projects that we do besides quilts, we're helping Afghan refugees that are being relocated to Utah, and helping with providing 600 quilts for them. We're in the next 2 months, we're working on surgical masks, like up on the board. Our goal is to do 5,000 by the end of the year. Latter-day Saint Charities have asked us to take on this project because they're being shipped out to rural clinics and midwives throughout the world. And so we thought that masks were done, but they're not. And so we're trying to help fill that need. We also contribute things to hospitals. For instance, McKay-D Hospital They like receiving blankets and things to give the mothers for babies. We also make bereavement blankets for those in the that pass away, so that the parents have, a nice blanket to wrap their deceased child in. We do things for children, autistic children. There's marble mazes. We're helping with the Navajo Reservation in southern Utah, east of Richfield. Or is it Richville? Get them mixed up. But anyway, they're opening up dormitories there that are associated with the schools down there. And so there's a lot of learning games that we're making. We besides the help that we can give to the various organizations and charities, we're also providing a service for people in Morgan. This is a community project, and we encourage people in the community to get involved. They can come to the Humanitarian Center and pick up kits and work on them at home and then drop them back by when they're completed, or they can stay there and work. And it's been a great thing for many of the women, particularly in Morgan, to have a place that they can get together and enjoy one another's company, but still use their time for something beneficial. We also work with a lot of the youth groups to give them projects that they can work on. For instance, lacing tools, where they color the wood blocks, and then they're contributed to women's shelters and different organizations for children. So that's just a little taste of what we're doing. We haven't been open long. We plan to grow. We have about between 30 and 40 people that come each week and stay, but the majority of the work that we do is done in the homes at their own time. So that was it. Anyone, if you have any questions, I can answer, but.
Questions from the council?
How are you funded?
We don't have a budget. In a word, but that's one reason that we've partnered with Stitching Hearts, because they're a larger organization that have been around for longer. And so they've donated the sewing machines and the sergers. And the Morgan Stake has given us money to build the looms to make these sleeping mats. A member in Morgan have built them. Pete Larson, if you happen to know him. And then just the people who are using the facility donate some things, but Stitching Hearts gives us the majority of the material and fabric that we need.
Good.
Well, I appreciate your display and the time you took in coming here, so.
Well, thank you very much. We just want to get the word out so that more people can be involved.
I guess that's where direction I wanted. Do you have a need for more volunteers?
Yeah, we can always
helpers.
use,
I'm trying to brainstorm ideas on how to maybe get that word out. I'm sure you're doing a lot of things. Is there any way we could help with information as far as getting word out that you are functioning?
well, I'd like to contact the Morgan News to see if they could run an article in the newspaper, maybe with a picture of the women that are working. That would be one way. We also put a little advertisement on Morgan Moms that we're open today. And so that people look there. there is a representative in each of the wards that is over humanitarian aid. And so I deal with them. We're
Okay,
kind of a
okay.
community, although we are encouraging anybody in the community to be involved. We also have people come up from Mountain Green and Milton and different places. So
First, the Ridley's or the grocery store bags. Have you put out word
Yeah.
that people can say those and bring them in? Is that generally heard?
Ridley's has given us permission for anyone who wants to, they already collect
Correct.
them for recycling,
Mhm.
but we can take them out of there before they recycle and we can have as many as we want.
Okay.
So,
I would hope there'd be some folks in our community that would be willing to bring those in if they knew you were there.
yes, and there are many people who are starting to save their bags and just give them to us directly.
Good.
So
Do you have
it's-
many men there assisting or many just ladies?
It's mostly ladies and youth,
Okay.
but we do have men that have volunteered to cut out the wood for the lacing toys.
Good, good.
And we have young men that come in and weave the looms as well. I mean, the sleeping mats on the looms.
Mats, okay. Awesome. Glad you're doing that. Glad you let us know.
Well, thank you. I
think there's
appreciate it.
probably a lot of good things happening in our community that we don't hear about. So I appreciate letting us know about that. I do.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Just one quick thing. I heard on the news tonight that Utah was, there was of the 50 states, Utah is the highest state to give humanitarian aid. And so we're trying to do our part in Morgan.
Yeah, I saw that on the news in both monetary and hours of service. Utah's by far the highest in both of those in giving to the needy and helping out. So,
Yeah.
and I'm
And
glad we're
there's a great need.
doing something in our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Denise, any public comments registered? Okay, all right. We'll go on to item number 4. Okay, that is canvas of the election results. Denise, I'll turn time over to you to give us that canvas report.
Okay, hot off the press. So here we go. The official results of the 2021 municipal election for Morgan City is Steve Gale with 570 votes and Tony London with 555. Congratulations, Steve. City Council, the 4-year term is Jeffrey Richens with 737 votes, Eric Turner with 657 votes, and Justin Farron with 438 votes. David Alexander was unopposed for the 2-year term of City Council with 1,021 votes. There was a total of 2,307 registered voters. And the total ballots cast was 1,132. The voter turnout percentage was 49.07, which was pretty good for Morgan. So, that's it. Any questions?
Any questions for Denise? Okay, all right.
Okay.
So with that, to summarize that, Denise, what we have then, as far as the council members, we will have Jeffrey Richens and Eric Turner, and then David Alexander were elected for the council.
For the council
Okay, and Steve Gale is elected as mayor.
as mayor.
That's where it stands, the
Yes.
summary. Okay. At this point, I entertain a motion to approve the canvas. Okay, motion by Tony, second by Jeffrey, to approve the canvas of the 2021 municipal election results. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passed unanimously. The election canvas results have been officially adopted. Okay, we'll move on to number 5 now. You're welcome to stay if you like to, or if you want to gather up, you're welcome to gather up and leave if you'd like to. Your choice. We would not be offended if you gather up and leave. You stay if you like, though. Whatever works for you. Thank you for being here. Okay. Item number 5, public hearings. We have 2 public hearings. I'd like to take them separately tonight. Sometimes we can take them together tonight. I'd like to take them separately if we can. So item number 5, the public hearing on the general plan amendment from Central Business District to medium density residential property located approximately 300 east, 400 north is what the public hearing, first public hearing is on that general plan change. I'll entertain a motion to enter public hearing.
So moved. Second, Mayor.
Okay, moved by Eric, second by Jeffrey to go into public hearing. Public hearing for the reason of, for the purpose of the general plan amendment from general business district to medium density residential, probably located approximately 300 east, 400 north. The ordinance 21-11. Okay. Denise, has there been anybody want for the public hearing?
No.
Oh,
We need to vote on
let's vote on that. Okay. All in favor of
Aye.
the public
Aye.
hearing? Anybody opposed? Okay, motion passed. Denise, do we have anybody from the public that's signing? Okay, all right. We give a brief introduction to this. You want to pull up the map, Denise? Go, keep going.
You want this one?
Yes, let's pull down. This is a piece of property located behind what I call North Front and behind those the residents that live on 250th Street. It's back in there behind between the residents on 250th Street and Clark's Feed and Seed Shop, back in that empty field, currently has been owned in the past by Kerrigan's. When I was a little boy, we used to thin vegetables there for Mud Rock. That field, that's the field that's in. So I spent a few hours in that field. Anyway, the proposal tonight is to take that piece of property, which is about 4 acres, and split that or segregate it off. And the legal description shows to be about 1.49 acres, and change the zoning on that from commercial business to medium density. That's the proposal for the zone change. Any public hearing comments on that proposed master plan change? If you want, go ahead. Go ahead. Yep.
Okay.
Public hearing time frame. Yes, yes. Green means go.
We're green. All right. So I'm Ryan Nye, if you didn't know. I wasn't here for the planning and zoning meeting until the very end of it. So I kind of I had to apologize to my brother. I had a previous engagement that I had to go to and kind of just threw him into the fire and without all the knowledge there. So with that being said, one of the questions that were asked was would we move forward with this without a rezone and just do it all commercial? And I'm here to say, no, we won't. It doesn't make sense. We wouldn't be able to move forward with it being 100% commercial. The demand is affordable housing right now in Utah, in Morgan, as we all know. That's going to help fund the commercial side of it. If you look around Morgan right now, we don't have to look very far that we have empty buildings, we have empty lots that can be built on. I think there were 7 of them that I actually counted that are commercial lots that could be built on right now that nobody's pulled the trigger on. So to do a full development of straight commercial, I don't feel like it would support it. The part of that came up as well is Morgan City doesn't have a multi-use zone right now. It's just blanketed with commercial or residential. Am I right? You're looking at it, haven't come up with anything yet. And from a property tax standpoint, looking at it, and that's a lot of the times we think, well, we want commercial because it's a better tax base because it gets taxed at 100% versus a residential that gets taxed at 55%. I went and spent some time with the assessor, Gwen. She validated all my numbers that I've got here. We pulled some comps within the city. So from a tax standpoint, I didn't get this over to you quick enough, but if I can give this each one of you so I can walk you through it. Anyway, as you can see on the all commercial build out, based on putting 5 lots in there, 5 buildings, roughly 4,000 to 5,000 square feet. Taxable value is $750,000 at the tax rate that's here in 2021. It comes out to be $10,267 per building in property tax, $51,335 a year on that to do a full build out on 5 buildings that size in 4 acres, giving up some of it for the road and utilities, whatnot. In a mixed use, we've got it'll cut it down to 3 commercial buildings, 5,000 square feet. I kept the numbers all the same, so we're comparing apples to apples. 750,000 taxable value, 10,260 per building. That comes out to be 30,801. Now on the back 2 lots, what I'm at, where we're asking for a rezone, there would be 4 buildings that would consist of 4 townhouses each. So we've got a total of 16 townhouses. The value of them is approximately $300,000 a piece. And I think I'm erring on the conservative side on all of this, which is $165,000 of taxable is the taxable value, which is 55%. The tax rate, and which comes out to be the $2,258 per building, $36,128,000 per year for the total 16 buildings. Grand total $66,929 for a difference of $15,594 positive doing a mixed use like this versus straight commercial. So I guess the question that I would have is, well, that I would hope that you'd think, just kind of stimulate a little bit of thought. You guys are looking at a mixed use right now already and doing that, but I think this property here fits that. Sitting down with Ty, where it's bordered on 3 sides by medium density already. From a property tax standpoint, it's more valuable, more beneficial to the city to have that in a mixed use like this. So yeah, that's where I'm sitting. And any questions?
Yeah, I'm confused.
Okay,
Okay.
well, that's all this public hearing. If there's comments, we'll have the council ask questions outside the public hearing. We get ready to make a motion.
Okay.
Do you have anything else you'd like to present at this point?
I I don't think I do at this point. I mean,
Okay.
the way it is, it's minimal impact on the services with the highest rate of return in commercial being retail. Yeah. So I think there was zero negative impact when we talked about it. Is that accurate, fair and sane?
Doesn't detract from the other surrounding properties.
Right.
Okay.
So I've talked with surrounding property owners. They haven't voiced any concern. The only concern that they've really been concerned with is the ditch. That's the only thing, is wondering, making sure they got water. So, but yeah, other than that, I haven't heard any negative on it. This is the third drawing that I've actually put together at first we talked about single family, talked about commercial. It won't work, that way. But yeah, this is what I think is a good fit for this property.
We'll have time for questions. Okay.
Perfect.
Anybody else in the public hearing? Okay, I'm gonna take a motion to close the public hearing and we'll for the council to discuss it. Council ask questions of Ryan if you'd like, or questions whoever. Okay, nobody else, public hearing comments? Okay, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Tony, seconded by Jeff. We close the public hearing on the general plan, on general plan change. Is there any discussion on the motions? Okay, we proceed to vote on the closing public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And this unanimously, the public hearing is closed. Now I'll open for discussion for the council. First off, I'd like to maybe have Tony and or David report some of the things from the planning commission. Now I got a couple more things I'd like to bring up for think about, and we'll open for further discussion. So Tony or David, anything from planning commission you want to bring forth at this point?
Yeah, I think there's a few things to talk about. I mean, that's why we have a planning commission, is to accept their recommendation. And as we are aware, their recommendation was negative in forwarding to the city council. Ryan, did you get a chance to, where are you, to listen to any of that meeting?
Some of it, yeah. And I think my question back would be, in the way of commercial, what are you looking for in the way of commercial? What are we trying to accomplish when we blanket as commercial? It's kind of an old way of zoning. And instead of, now we're looking at, prime example, you're looking at multifamily and just haven't accepted it yet. And so that's what I would ask is, are we just, well, that's what the code says, that's what we're staying at. And that's kind of what I got from Mr. McClellan, is that his comment was, well, we're the guardian of the code and that's what it says. And that's what it was. That was his comment at the end.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, let me, thank you, Ryan. To participate in the meeting in its entirety, there was a definite flavor, and I think I've captured that, and I'll share it in comments by Nate. And this is just his, his wording, if you will. And that gives the council an opportunity to maybe get, if you haven't reviewed the meeting, an opportunity and for your purpose. But I think it'll start to give a little bit of a flavor of where that council was coming from, rather than just saying, like you suggest, that it was a no and let's move on. The council, to be honest, wrestled with that on more than one occasion. Nate talked about it being a challenge, and he also mentioned his personal stance on growth and progress, and wanting to move forward in that regard. But there was a definite flavor, and let me read this because I think it brings out what that the flavor of the meeting was. It says, this is from Nate. There are a number of considerations that we still need to talk through. And so this is when Cody was in the same position that you are right now. The process would be, is we make a positive or negative recommendation to the city council On the general plan change and likewise zoning change, when we get to the piece, then the city council will also have a public hearing and do the same thing. With respect to some of the concerns I have, and Mr. Brown initiated this conversation, you might be aware we are going through a big general plan revision, he said 2050. One of the things that's been ingrained in us is there's a lot of deference given to the general plan because of all the work and public input it represents. So the old general plan is still a governing general plan, has been in place since 1999. Back then, the same effort went into it, designating this particular parcel as commercial, envisioning the city growing and best for land use. The zoning reflects that, the general plan reflects that, and this revision, now 23 years later, let's see, the general plan reflects that, and the revision, the old plan 23 years later, the new plan is not complete, but it's already had a lot of public input. And the public input right now in its current state, and he went back and looked at what the work had been done on the new plan so far, reflecting that the entire piece remained commercial, perhaps even expanding the commercial. The parcel next to yours is owned by Destiny Homes and is multifamily already. And I think he was referencing that potential that is there that could be commercial. That's the challenge. This is one of the premier locations within central Morgan City. It's an impact parcel, and the question before us is whether or not we recommend, is there enough compelling reason to go against all the public influence that's influenced the general plan and say, well, we want to help fund your project despite the fact that the plan is representing a different land use. That's the challenge we're having before us as we look at this. Those are my thoughts. So there a definite feeling from the meeting, and I might expand on that just a little bit, that and I think this is the heart of where the commission's thoughts or discussions come from, is that there's a limited amount of commercial property available in Morgan City. And even there was a working session an hour before the regular session. In that meeting, someone made the comment that with the economic environment the way it is today, with affordable housing and housing in general, and the supply and demand imbalance, that we could probably take every piece of commercial property in Morgan and zone it residential and build it out. I mean, there's that much interest or that much activity. Hence, the thought or concept being, we clearly don't do that because now all of a sudden we don't have any commercial property left for all the reasons that we have commercial property. So in that light, I think it's the bottom line is the big concern is just the fact that the commercial property is a premium. There's not any more being developed or made. I mean, if we could exchange this for that or so forth, that probably makes it a lot easier. But I think the bulk of the 2 hours that they spent was in that discussion. And I think it's important to note that the Planning Commission was unanimous in saying we want to leave it commercial. So just for the benefit of all of us that weren't there, that's a little bit of a feel for, I think, what the Planning Commission was about on that evening. Tony, anything more to add to that?
No, you've covered it very well, Dave. Yeah, obviously it was not recommended to us by the Planning Commission, as you said, unanimously. The one point that was brought up in the meeting, and I'll echo what you just said, Dave, was the fact that right now, RM15, medium density residentials, it's a hot item. I mean, you can probably build them and sell them. But we could do that almost virtually with every piece of commercial property we had in the city. So no one possesses that magic crystal ball to see what's going to happen in the next 15 or 20 or 30 years. But so to me is, I think the feeling I got from the Planning Commission is, do we sacrifice a piece of commercial ground at this moment when possibly down the road we may need it, or it would be of some use to us as a commercial piece of property? So I think that, Dave, that was pretty much the...
And therein lies the challenge, Ryan, is here here's somebody willing to invest money, invest capital in the city, and holy smokes, if investments weren't made, we wouldn't have a bank, we wouldn't have a grocery store, we wouldn't have businesses that provide employment to our community and services. So in that light, we want that. I mean, we encourage it and we should be doing that. And for the moment, that capital is willing to be invested right here, right today, right at the moment. That's a very strong argument. Just like you say, do we need affordable housing? Yes, we do. That's a strong argument to say that it probably makes sense. But I think the Planning Commission, particularly where they were all lined up, probably has to be paid attention to at the same time. That says we're limited in the commercial realm.
Okay, anything else, Dave?
That's all.
Or Tony? Anything else from that? Okay, let me just make a couple comments. Then we'll turn time over to the council and ask some questions and go from there. I appreciate very much the work of the Planning Commission. I do. They put some time and effort. However, as city council, we need to take that into consideration for sure. Then that they just made a recommendation to us. Now it's up to the city council to determine what the best use is, what we foresee that future to be. As I said, there's a couple of questions or thoughts or concepts. One concept is commercial, and that's been talked about. Do we need it in the future? Hopefully. One thing that, again, been talked about, mentioned, we talk about mixed use, which we don't have yet. Nate talked a lot about the new plan. That new plan is going to take a lot of time and effort from this group and Planning Commission to put into place. In my opinion, all that is some drawings on a restaurant napkin. And the firm we hired put a lot of time into it. And they put a lot of effort, so has our planning, so has our staff and the county staff put a lot of time looking at it. But I don't think it's anywhere final. If we're going to do multiple use, then the multiple use is going to be in the commercial area. At this point, we don't have multiple use, which means, good question. Wrap your mind around what that means. Does it mean apartments above a commercial shop? And some of those minds what it means. So I think even though the plan is in process, I don't think it's necessarily viable yet. Yes, the prior plan was, the prior master plan was put into place by well thought out persons that did their best job of thinking it through. At that point, they thought commercial meant to them what? What our whole commercial street used to be. That's what it meant. That's what they thought. That's what it meant to them. I guess in my own personal mind, I struggle currently. What does commercial look like in the future? And as I've asked several people, I asked myself, and maybe you can reflect on this. Maybe it's a crazy question, but in the last 6 months or last year, what are some things that you have bought for your family that you have bought at a store if that store existed in Morgan? The things you bought, could there be a store existing in Morgan to acquire those things? Or we changed our thought, or is the thought of commercial being changed? Again, I applaud the gentlemen and ladies that 20, 30 years ago thought out the general plan. We thank them for what they did. But their vision of commercial was what old commercial street looked like. A barber shop, repair shop, a gas station, another grocery store, hair salon. That was their vision of commercial. As we have an opportunity to look at this new city land use concept plan, to me, it's going to be a tremendous process. Good luck, Mayor, to be able to sort through and determine what the future ought to hold for Morgan City. It's quite a process we're all involved in to be able to sort that out. So that's what's, I guess, been bouncing on in my mind, trying to sort that out. Commercial in the future. Does it look like multiple little shops along the street? Does it look like a large 4-acre patch where you put in a large commercial building? I don't know.
Business park.
Yeah, I don't, or a business park. You talk about commercial, you talk about land available. There is still a big section of ground to the west that at some point may or may not be developed. Whether we want highly industrialized industry there, or we adjust that to commercial uses or mixed use stuff, I don't know the answer to that. And that'll be sorted out in the next while as we go through this master plan change. So I guess in my mind, the question is, do we need to reserve this for commercial only? That's one thing you can think about. And that was kind of the direction the planning commission kind of leaned to, was we got to save commercial. But does it save it for what the future commercial is going to be, or for what my mind said commercial ought to be or should be or was? As I've said in the council here for a lot of years, we've had the mindset of saving commercial for commercial's sake, which is just some good logic. I'm not trying to downplay that. But I'm trying to struggle in my mind personally, what is commercial going to look like in the future? As I personally answer that question I asked a minute ago, most all law purchases I've done lately, my wife's done lately, has been delivered by a brown truck or a red and white truck to the home. I haven't gone to the store to pick it up. So I don't know of a store that you could put in Morgan that I would frequent enough to keep the doors open. Hardware store, grocery store, health care. Yeah, I need those. I want to continue those. A carpet store, they can exist with an office and ship all our carpet and flooring in. They don't need a 500-foot or 10,000-foot square showroom for carpet stores anymore. Hey, I'm just trying to kick things around my mind. I'm trying to sort through this. What's the best use of ground that we have? I'll quit rambling and I'll turn it over to council for discussion and thoughts.
Mayor, thank you for your wisdom there. For me personally, sometimes we got to talk about our personal stuff. In the company that I'm now employed, to answer your question about what a commercial building or a commercial business looks like, we've now in our business started a retail site. We're sending orders all over the United States, all over in Canada to Alaska. Today I sent out some orders to 4 different areas of the United States, and we're growing. And so the owner of the company told me, Eric, I got to find some commercial space to build. I'm not saying we're going to build here, but
Sure you are.
no, because that gets me in trouble. Denise, I denied that. But he told me we're in need of office space. We're in need of warehouse space. I mean, as the economy changes, yes, you are correct. We no longer sell out of a brick and mortar, but I mean, I'm using those shipping companies to send product to all over the United States at this point. And so, yes, somewhat we have changed the way that we do business because now we're doing it all over, right? We're no longer stuck to necessarily a geographical location.
More distribution.
Yeah, we're into
Absolutely. We're doing lots
distribution,
of these
right?
too.
I mean,
You're going to need a warehouse and an office,
Yeah.
Right.
not a commercial building where people walk into
and
it.
so, I mean, that really is in my mind, you know, that to me is still a commercial where it's office space. It's, warehousing and office space. I've been to quite a few of those lately, you know, and it's a warehouse in the back and it's offices in the top or the front. You know, you're
We're seeing a lot of that. Absolutely. I agree completely. We're seeing a lot of that distribution. We build it. You see it on the West Corridor, all over the place. You see it BDO. We're doing a lot of
Absolutely.
buildings down there. But those can't even go in this zone. Am I accurate in saying that? It's not even allowed. And honestly, that type of building is more behind Ridley's and pushing out that warehouse type industrial type of a place. So, you know, I appreciate your comments, Mayor. Absolutely. There's got to be some foresight like that. What's it going to look like? And it's changing. It's doing those things. That another thing that buildings that we work on a lot of is the commercial on the lower level. So it's vertical. And so the lower level is some commercial, so just some office spaces, things like that. And then five levels of apartments and townhouses. They're popping up all over the place.
Yeah. down
Because of that demand.
Okay.
So absolutely, what's it gonna look like? What is commercial? And that was my question, is what are we trying to accomplish? Is it, I mean, do you want me to go up in the air with it? You want me to go horizontally? I mean, that's kind of my question. I just want to stimulate some thought here as well as for this property. I mean, I'd love to have a rezone. I'd like you to not say no and shoot me right down, but table it and think about it a little bit, whatever. But that's some of I want to stimulate some thought here a little bit that it's changed and it's going to continue to change. I can order anything I want at my fingertips and Eric will ship it to me. Right.
Okay.
And that's the way it works
Okay.
nowadays.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay.
So,
Anything else in this count? Questions, thoughts, please?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Ryan,
Think through it.
your example here,
mhm.
is this indicative of just that piece of property that we're talking about rezoning tonight? I mean, so you're talking about 5 buildings, you're talking about all commercial, 5 buildings.
Mhm.
Then you're talking about mixed use with 3 commercial buildings and 4 townhouse buildings. Are we talking about putting all of that on this particular piece of ground that you're asking for?
Yeah, there should be a drawing of
Yeah, I
a
was gonna say there's a
concept.
little concept plan there, Tony.
Yeah, you should be
Okay.
able to see a concept plan of
And
how
then-
the road comes
Yeah,
through.
I saw it. I just wanted to make sure.
Okay, there it
I
is.
just wanted to make sure. So
Yeah,
I guess
so,
my other question is just think you're sitting here looking at it. And you mentioned a while ago, about commercial. So why not ask for a rezone of that total parcel? What are you saving that piece of commercial for?
well, that was kind of the direction that I was given, and is to not go for the whole thing is because to maintain some commercial there. We have Napa right there. I don't know what down the road if the houses eventually will get torn down. You know what I mean? Who knows on some of that sort of stuff, but it keeps some commercial shopping, retail, possibly title companies, that need office space. And even some of those are DocuSigns anymore. But so, yeah. So I'd love to have some direction. If I can do it all in townhouses, great. But I want some commercial as well. I don't think it's smart to do it all in townhouses. It's just the same comment that you guys say, well, yeah, the demand's there. You can change every piece of property. And I would agree with that, but I don't agree with doing it. You know what I mean? So that's, yeah.
Further questions from council? Or thoughts? Ideas? Think out loud for a minute.
I think it's worth mentioning also, Ray, that you find it here, the recommendation from staff, if you will. General plan amendments and property rezonings are legislative decisions, giving city officials a great deal of discretion as to whether they are a good idea or not. In the opinion of staff, there does not seem to be much impact in changing the zoning on the portion of the parcel as requested, as it abuts directly to property already so zoned. Worth noting.
Okay. Gary, do you want, any thoughts you have as far as the latitude the council has in a master zone change, master plan change?
Sure, thanks, Mayor. Yes, probably the strongest or the most latitude that you have, of course, is an annexation. And then short of annexation, it is a master plan change. And short of a master plan change, two reasons generally for a master plan change. One is that there has been a change in the surrounding uses. Or number two, that there's been a mistake in the master plan in the past and you want to correct that mistake. Those are the two reasons you generally decide against the master plan. But you know what? As long as you've got a rational basis, you can actually change the master plan for just about any reason. You're very flexible. It's meant to be dynamic. It's meant to be changing all the time. And then the next step would be the rezone, which is a little less flexible than the master plan is, but it's still really, really flexible. There's never been a case in the state of Utah that I'm aware of where a city council has been reversed on a zone change. So that tells you how strong a position that is. And then from there you go to the administrative decisions, which is the site plan and the subdivision. There have been a few cases where those have been reversed because they haven't stuck to their ordinance essentially. And you're governed by ordinance. So that would be the order there. I just want to make one comment on the tax issue. You guys have been at it for a long time. And you know that there's certain things that you do consider in making a zone change decision or a master plan decision, and you try and put on the record your reasons for doing it. There are a couple of reasons that don't count. One is if you take a vote of everybody in the room as to what they think ought to happen or ought not to happen. And the second thing is if the city's zoning for the purpose of increasing your taxes. You're zoning essentially to determine whether or not this is a good place for this zone to be. And you look at things like circulation, like surrounding uses, those things that are permanent on the site. But even though it's fun to look at the taxes that might come off of these, that would not be a consideration. But I hope that helps, Mayor. Is there anything else?
Just clarify what Gary just mentioned, at least in my mind. It's not appropriate for a city council to make a decision based on, will this be better tax-wise for us? However, I think this information is helpful, just have some background knowledge, because in the past we've felt commercial generates more tax base than other residential buildings. So I think the information is helpful at least to understand, but Gary's correct. We should not make the decision based on tax implications. Decision should be made based on what we think the best use is of that particular property or ground. Okay, thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Further questions from the council or further thoughts?
I'm just gonna think out loud
Go
here
ahead.
for a second.
Go ahead.
Hope I don't get in trouble. You know, one thought that keeps reoccurring to me over and over is when I started on the council, somebody gave me the wise advice to follow what the planning commission says, because we put good people on there and they spend hours and time thinking about what they want. They give us the proposals, and you know, it's obvious that we can override that. I mean, we can do that as a city council, but again, that's a pretty good, to me, a mirror or a look at what our community wants, because we've got different people from different aspects of life on that council. So it just keeps rolling through my head there. I'm just talking out loud here. So.
Fine.
So I can just talk out loud as well, just from an infrastructure perspective. So that's just kind of my world, where we do water, sewer, power, traffic, and in the staff comments where it says there's no major negative, basically both zones are right there, but real close proximity to State Street, which is good, close to the grocery store, gas station, and freeway. So the overall impact to, you know, the city is pretty minimal as far as you look at that. One of the things is build ready lots versus vacant lots. So you have commercial lots, the density or the medium density housing on the back side of that lot is what will pay for the infrastructure for the commercial, right? So we want to make sure commercial is possible. But one way to look at it is if it's all commercial, it's very difficult for one entity to say, I'm going to come and build one business on that whole parcel, and I'll put in the entire road and all the infrastructure that's included for wherever that one business is located. So the vacant land that we have in our current commercial situation, most of those are already on build-ready lots, and they're still vacant. So some of it's I'm not trying to push. I'm just saying that anytime we have a chance to get something to fund the infrastructure to actually create opportunity, and you have an applicant that does both, right? That's willing to, not putting you on the spot, or we don't need to ask for a guarantee or anything like that. If we're hoping for future commercial, and I don't know, maybe that's the question, does this actually make that commercial possible? Or without the infrastructure, do we just play the hope and wait game for how much longer? With a lot of people don't understand, the city's not going to go put in a road, right? We're not going to go build out that infrastructure, no matter how much we want the commercial. That's typically not part of the development process. So anyway, that's just from an infrastructure perspective in the current commercial that we have available. And frankly, more commercial means more rooftops. That might be an old way to look at it, Mayor. That's how a lot of brick and mortar, they do look at it, but we can't have more commercial without more population. And if you're going to have more population, having a constant that density next to the services and traffic wise closest to the freeway, it makes a lot of sense just from a infrastructure use of land perspective. So that's why there's no kind of like any negative, I can't think of any negative impact to.
Although Ty, just on infrastructure, and again, recognizing your statement there, Mayor, that the decision isn't based on that, but I mean, we're seeing half of the equation, i.e. the revenue, the other half is the expense. It costs more to flush 20 toilets than it does 6 or 7. Costs us more.
Well, not per mile. So
For our services, and I'm talking about everything, law enforcement, all of the things that we pay out for, it's going to cost. To have 20 units there will probably be more expensive than just 2 other additional commercial buildings.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Depending on the nature of the business too. So.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I don't see a Walmart in there anytime soon.
Well, it's not feasible, but.
Further questions, or if you're ready for a motion, again, the options at this point would be some further discussion, further questions, or you could make a motion to pass ordinance 2111 or deny ordinance 2111, or you could make a motion to table it. Those are the options at this point before the council.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, could I just mention one thing, and that would be a denial, of course, would provide that you couldn't come back for a year with the same application. You could change it a little bit, but the same application.
With a denial, you put the whole project a year off. That's true. Thank you, Gary.
Can I clarify that?
Sure.
A denial, they could not approach on any type of a master plan change or zone change?
No, that,
Okay, so here's what I'm saying. So now they're asking from commercial to RM15, correct?
yes.
Central Business District, or I'm sorry, Central Business District, RM15. So we put a master plan in place and we actually create a mixed use zone in our master plan. I'm just spitballing here. Could they come back once the new master plan is in place and it includes mixed use? Could they come back and apply for it under that guise versus without waiting a year?
It may take a year to get that place.
That would be a different.
But it's going to take a while to get. I totally understand it's going to take a while to get the mixed use if we decide to do that. Yeah, I totally understand.
Right.
Just a question.
Good. That's a good question. Good clarification. Okay.
And I guess, Mayor, while we're all just kind of talking out of our ears, I guess initial thought coming in and still trying to wrap my head around is I know one thing we're not getting more of, and that's space. Regardless of where it is, from agricultural hayfields to building lots to anything else, we're not getting any more of it. So what is the best use, and do we need to protect it, and to what end? And my crystal ball's foggy.
And in my estimation, I think Jeffrey's kind of summarized it for us. It's a matter of whether you decide which direction to go on that. What do you think? You want to table and give yourself a couple more weeks to wrap your mind around it, with whatever your preference is.
Oh, here we go. I'll make a motion, Mayor. Oh, sorry. You go first.
No, you'll go ahead. I was just going to make a motion to,
No, I'm going to make one too, to table it.
that was mine.
I'll let you go, Tony.
Okay, that's my point. That's my point right there. So I'm ready.
That's a big, go ahead, Tony.
I will make a motion to table the general plan amendment from central business district to medium density residential. The property located at approximately 300 east, 400 north, the ordinance 2111. And the reason being is Jeff just buttered it over here for some, I think some on the council, this may have been the very first time they had to have a chance to take a look at this. And so seen it in a packet. So I guess I would like to, Dave and I, of course, was in the planning meeting. I've been down this road for some time, but I think in reference to the other council members, I'd like to let them have a little bit of time to digest it. So my motion would be to table.
Well, since you motioned, I'll second.
Mayor,
Yeah.
would that be to a date certain?
Oh,
Right. What does that do to the public hearing, Gary? What does that do to the public hearing?
Well,
We already had on this, and so we're okay.
yes, if you don't want to have to advertise it again, which is the only reason to choose a date certain.
Okay.
If you want to advertise it, it just costs to advertise it every time you do. So if you do it you can do it, you can continue it as many or table it as many times, Mary, you're aware of that as you wish. But if you table it to a date certain, we don't have to re-advertise it when you do bring it back up again. So.
So it's either November 23rd or December 14th.
14th.
I don't know.
do I-
You're making a motion.
do I need to amend that to
You're making a motion. Would you like to amend your motion to include a date certain?
Can do. So I'll amend my motion to include a date certain of, let's say, December 14th meeting.
And I'll
Does
still,
the seconder approve of that amendment? Okay. We have a motion before the floor. It's been amended to table ordinance 2111 till December 14th, a date certain. Any discussion on that? Well, the thought and reason why was several, this first time I had a chance to look at it. And I think this is a big decision as far as our future is going to have a hold for us. So I think to give us more time to think through is appropriate maneuver. Any further discussion on the motion to table?
I would also throw in or recommend that to anyone that hasn't, and Cody, you were there, but anyone that hasn't viewed the planning commission meeting, it's on the YouTube, and that they do that. And Ryan, that'd give you a feel of what you're up against too. I mean, again, it gives you the flavor of where the concern is. I think they did a good job in spelling out what their concerns were.
And I appreciate that. Just one last word. I appreciate that you respect the decision of the planning and zoning. I respect that absolutely. But I think tonight, there's been a lot of good discussion and other points that have been brought out that were never brought out in the planning
Absolutely.
and zoning.
Yep.
And
Fair
so
enough.
I think it's valuable. I think, so I think it's a good decision.
Okay, further discussion on the motion.
It's not my nature to kick the can down the road, but I think we need a little more time on this,
Absolutely.
especially those.
And I'm fine with
One
that.
thing I think I'm gonna try to do is go talk to some of my constituents out there and see people's feelings and what they're thinking, visit with some of my neighbors and see their thoughts too. Because we got to remember that's really who we represent. So.
Any further discussion? Vote. All those in favor of tabling orders 2111 to date certain December 14th, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passed unanimously. We will table orders 2111. With that done, Gary, I suspect there's no reason to go on to the public hearing for the zone change.
No, you're correct.
So we'll skip item number 6.
But Gary, we'd have to have a public hearing for that eventually, correct?
Could you
Yeah.
table that as well to the next
Okay, so,
meeting, to the same date?
okay.
That would be.
We entertain a motion. On item number 6, which is resolution 2124, would follow. It's based on the zone change. We, at this point, doesn't make sense to cover that until we know what our decision is on the master plan change. It makes sense, as Gary mentioned to us, to go ahead and table that item as well, resolution 2124.
Well,
Is there a
21,
motion?
it would be 2112.
It's not item 6, it's one up from item.
It's B.
Excuse me.
BB.
Excuse me.
5B.
Yep.
Move that we
Right there.
table item 2112 to the same date of December, was it 14th? 14th.
Second.
The move and second, we table also ordinance 2112, the same date certain. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, seeing none, proceed to vote. All in favor of tabling ordinance 2112, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passed. Ordinance 2112 is also tabled. Okay, now item 6. Thank you for the clarification. Item number 6. We passed this before, but there've been some changes and revisions out there with the other electrical utility companies. So this is brought back to us. We gave Ty the permission to sign the last one. He did so. So this is put in resolution form, resolution 2124, which is the mutual assistance agreement between electrical utility companies. Any discussion on that item? You want some clarification on it?
I was looking for you on the news, Ty. Good to see you.
My head showed up.
You were there at the signing.
I was at the signing table and there was a little snippet went right over my head and I glowed.
I was watching for you and I didn't.
I was hoping not to be on the news, so.
Gary, do you want to address any of the changes on that at all? Or Ty?
I think we're any subsident.
Yeah.
I'd like to see was
Not
more
that,
technical.
I read that, I didn't see any.
Yeah.
I appreciate Gary looking at for it. Gary's looked at for it. I appreciate Gary's set of eyes on that as well.
You've perused it and we have his blessings.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So
Any discussion? Are you ready for a motion?
I have just a question in general, Gary. The agreement, if I remember right, had 8 different power entities there. There's clearly more than that in Utah. Why wouldn't the others be included?
Well, there were some concerns. I actually talked to St. George this morning and they would not participate. Mainly because they feel a little disenfranchised and there were some concerns they had with Rocky Mountain Power. And so there were some entities that chose not to participate just because there's a long distance between St. George and Wasatch Front. And they felt that they had not received the help that they needed when they needed it. And, whereas the Wasatch Front is more, I think we have had a fairly good relationship with, bumpy sometimes, but we've had a fairly good relationship with Rocky Mountain.
Yeah, and then we're also not going to be a contributing party to the agreement. We'll be on the receiving end. So there's nothing that we would ever do to form a crew.
That's not, I mean, the agreement says we reciprocate, but In reality, we probably won't.
No, in the reality, it just gives us maybe the ability to
Right.
help ourselves with our small crew, operate some switches, but some of the larger entities don't want to get tapped into kind of going down it's a union issue is what it comes down
Yeah,
to. You
fair
gotta
enough, yeah.
mix the two. And then the other thing is the time frame was so short. There's some others that will probably end up signing as time goes, but didn't have a chance to move on it as fast as we did.
Will we need to revisit this at that point?
No, so now that's the final. Now they just either sign it or they don't
Okay.
for each entity moving forward.
So we're just trolling.
Any further discussion or motion?
Move that we approve resolution.
Appreciate you gentlemen's interest in the topic. Delight to, you're welcome to carry that on out in the foyer. If you don't care what we're doing, please take your discussion to foyer. Discussion, I don't want to cut you off, but I'd like you to do it out there rather than here. And for discussion.
Mayor, I'd move that we approve resolution 21-24, one Utah Mutual Assistance Agreement for the provision of mutual aid between electrical utilities, ratifying the execution of the agreement by Ty Bailey, the city manager.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, motion by David, second by Jeffrey. We passed resolution 21-24, one Utah Mutual Assistance Agreement for the provision of mutual aid between electrical utilities, ratifying the execution of the agreement by Ty Bailey, city manager. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, so now we'll proceed to vote. Since the resolution go by roll call vote. Jeffrey,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
and David. Okay, motion passed unanimously. Resolution 21-24 is passed. Okay, now we move to item 7. The whole reason Cole's been here is he had his presence here. Cole, welcome. Conditional acceptance of Riverstone Townhomes. Briefly, what that is Denise has helped me understand, learn that. Even though there are, how many phases are there? Cole, 4, 5 phases. Even though there are 5 phases, they put in all the infrastructure with phase 1 for all the other phases. So the infrastructure, so this is basically what this conditional acceptance is for the infrastructure within within the facility down there. You read the information, as you know, conditional acceptance starts a 1-year guarantee period on the infrastructure. As you read the information there, the one thing that's left out of this conditional acceptance is the pieces relating to the retention basin. Those pieces, as far as infrastructure, have not been put in yet. The rest of it has been installed and put in. Mr. Rouser's here. If you have any questions for him, you're welcome to ask him some questions or questions on the conditional acceptance. I'll turn it over to the council now for questions.
Yeah, I have a question. The staff memo suggested that the diversion or the basin hadn't been completed because of a drought. How does the drought affect your ability to finish that?
So the basin itself is complete. The pond is there, the piping's there, it's functional. The only thing that we haven't done, it called for a seed mix and a sprinkler system. And so we have not put that in yet. I didn't, quite honestly, even though we're only required to do a seed mix and kind of leave it wild, we're kind of entertaining the thought of, as we get to the end of the project, of doing something a little nicer than that down there, with potentially doing some sod and making some open space there that people can go enjoy. And so it just kind of depends on how things go from here to there. But that's why we haven't done that yet. We figured that 4th phase is down at the bottom of the subdivision where the pond is, and that would be an ideal time to put that in when we're there constructing that, so.
What is the time frame, Cole?
Well, if you can get the boats out of the harbor and material coming. In a perfect world, I'd like to say by this time next year, we're close, but I see it pushing into 2023. How far into 2023, I don't know, but no later than that.
Yeah, that's your projection of the whole project done.
Yeah,
All
to have
the,
everything
all the whole-
done and out of there. Yep.
Further questions of the council? Go ahead, T.
Just a question, I guess, for Gary, perhaps, or you, Mayor. So the guarantee period, is it time bound, or could it just continue on until there's a final acceptance? Did that make sense? So the guarantee period starts with conditional acceptance, correct?
It does.
And then is it, I mean, does it last a year? Does it last?
It's a year from actually final acceptance
Yeah.
is where it is what the time the guarantee period runs.
So a year.
A year, 1 year. That's by state law. So
It
If
could,
this is not done within a year,
it could take.
do we have to have another guarantee period or?
no, the guarantee doesn't kick in until you get the final acceptance.
Oh,
But
okay.
the bonding can be for whatever period of time it takes to get the work done. So the bonding can continue for 18 months for, whatever it happens to be. But the guarantee is the one that is restricted by state law to a year after the final approval. Because it wouldn't make sense to do it before that because you don't have your improvements all completed. So.
On the bottom here, it lists those items to be left in escrow to be completed. It gives you a list of those dollar items and the amount left in escrow. And yeah, and even the year guarantees based on if they get some things finished. There'll be a punch list, and Cole could get it done in 3 days, or it could take you 6 months to do the punch list. So depending on how long it takes to actually finish stuff off. So the year be a minimum, could take longer. We wouldn't have to redo it. We would not accept it until everything's totally completed.
Right.
Further questions, further thoughts? On the
Call the
motion?
retention amount of the 153. Does that seem reasonable on your part?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
You can,
that's typically what we've done.
you'd be able to complete the work with that dollar amount.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, like I say, most the work that's left, really, I mean, if you look at your line items, it's considerably less than that.
Yeah.
153 amount.
Okay.
And so.
Means we have a party after?
Yeah, party at the
Food.
retention pond.
Yeah.
Questions or I'll entertain a motion?
Mayor,
Tony,
I will make a motion that we approve the final acceptance, the conditional acceptance of the Riverstone Townhomes.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Tony, second by David. Do we give conditional acceptance of the Riverstone Townhomes? Is there any further question or discussion?
I got one. Does he need to include a dollar amount with that?
I was just gonna see if that come up. You may want to include, in the past, we've included the dollar amount to be retained in earnings.
Do
Be
we need to
retained.
make an amendment to the motion?
If you're okay with that, T.
Okay, I will amend the motion to include that the dollar amount to remain in the escrow account is $153,460.79.
Would the second approve of that amendment?
Yes.
Okay. We now have a motion as amended to pass conditional acceptance of Riverstone Townhomes with amount in escrow to be $153,460.79. Further discussion on the motion. Okay, see none, I'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are they opposed? Okay, motion passed. Thanks, Cole, for what you're doing.
Thank
done
you,
real good. Thank
Cole.
you, Cole.
Looks like that's come along pretty good.
Say, is it appropriate if we could ask
if-
like how
If you
how
talk,
many units
if
are
you
occupied? and-
talk to Cole outside the meeting, he's not a fan of boats in the harbor. What barges?
Ty had a question.
If you're okay, Mayor, if we just ask him a few questions about the project?
That'd
Well,
be
while he's
interesting.
here, just
Go ahead.
like how many total units are finished and occupied?
Right now, there are 20. Well, I've got 19 that are occupied. There are 8 more that will be occupied here this month. And then 8 more after that in December. And then we're taking Christmas off and we'll start in the spring. So we should have 35 in by the end of the year and unoccupied. We've started 8 more, just started framing this week. So we'll,
Do you still have a list of interest?
their
Yeah.
interest has been through the roof. It's been crazy. Yeah.
Do you know how many are local versus percentage wise? I'm just curious
There-
because we've approved a handful of different types of subdivisions and single family homes, and this is a big one.
Yeah.
And I've just been kind of curious to see how you see that playing out on your interest list, and then occupied, how many are like, local young families, and how many are just like,
Mostly all of them are young families. Young families are single moms or dads. We've got some single parents there. A big majority of them are local. We've got a lot of young kids from Morgan here, and there are a handful that have come from other places that wanted to get out of the city and come somewhere a little more quiet. But yeah, there's quite a few that I would say the majority are local.
and then are you selling all or keeping and renting
So
portions? Like just a mix, you know what I mean? Like,
we
what's the
have
idea?
sold everything to date and plan to continue to do that until we get, we'll likely keep a handful of those in our company to rent.
Rent out.
Yeah. And we've had a few people here locally that have bought and then are renting to a friend or family that they know as well. So
Using them as an investment property.
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else for Cole? Okay, thank you, Cole.
All right, thank you, guys.
Okay, we moved to item number 8, final acceptance of Mountain Vista Villas. I saw Mark Thane on Zoom. He's still, yeah, Mark's still there. If you have questions, you can ask Mr. Thane. If there's something you'd like to ask about those Mountain Vista Villa, again, Brent Slater and our staff have gone through and evaluated that. The punch list's been completed. Therefore, staff and Mr. Slater are able to recommend final acceptance of Mount Vista Villas. Question you have on that item or questions from Mr. Thane? Are you ready for a motion?
I just make a comment.
Please.
I was mistaken. Final approval or final acceptance means we release the bond.
Release it.
The
Yeah.
mayor was looking at me like, are you crazy or what? So I was half asleep,
That's fine.
but conditional acceptance puts that year into
Conditional starts
effect.
the year.
Yeah.
Final means year's over and they complete.
Yep. Sorry about that.
For
Apologies.
example, one of these,
Yeah.
the condition was given in July a year ago, so they're 6 months past their year. It took them that much longer to get accomplished. Another one is barely past their year. So the conditional sets the year time frame, and then we retain that, escrow. At the end of that time frame, if they complete the punch list that our staff and Mr. Slater give them, then Mr. Slater and our staff sign off and give them final acceptance. Part of the reason for the year is to see if the infrastructure is sound, still functions properly, water still flows up downhill and so forth. That's part of the reason for that year. And the reason to keep the money for that year period time frame, in case the developer can't, we could use that money to replace or fix infrastructure pieces.
And I
Go
think
to
that
you.
was my question. It doesn't necessarily have to be done in that year. It
No,
doesn't
it can
have
be
1
more.
year to get to final acceptance. It can,
Mm-hmm.
it can go longer than that before final. Okay, that was,
The one tonight,
that was my
year and a
question.
half.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for the clarification. Okay, further discussion or a motion on item 7, final acceptance Mountain Vista Villas.
Gary, the staff hasn't given a dollar amount specific, just the remaining amount in escrow. Is that good enough?
We do have.
If you want to include that, we've
that
got it. Denise
amount
gave it to
somewhere.
us. If you want to include that, I've got the dollar amount, or Denise gave it to me.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, what is that?
doesn't have it,
Let's-
nobody else.
21,000,
Pardon?
$21,318
Okay.
and 58 cents.
All right, Mayor, I'd,
That's on the Mountain Vista Villas.
That's the Mountain Vista Villas, which is still in escrow to be released. And again, part of that escrow would have been used up in some of the things they did. Use it in final inspection, use some of their escrow. So this is not the full amount they had in escrow. This is what's remaining after all projects have been completed.
mhm.
Okay,
So I'd make a motion to accept final acceptance of the Mountain View villas and release remaining escrow amounts. Excuse me, totaling $21,318.58. I'll second that motion.
motion by David, second by Eric, that we adopt, give final acceptance to Mountain Vista Villas and release escrow, remain escrow of $21,318.58. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, seeing no one proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passed. Mr. Thane, there's one of them down for you. Final acceptance, Mountain Vista Villas. Number 9. Final acceptance of Mahogany Ridge subdivision phases 4 and 5. Again, that's on top of the mountain going down there. Again, this is final. They've been just over a year and complete their punch list of that the Mahogany Ridge 4 and 5.
Does it have an amount on that one? 109,396 and 95
Again,
cents.
thanks to Denise for getting these numbers. She got them from Mr. Slater. So Denise gets credit for providing these numbers for us. Okay, any further discussion? Again, Mr. Mr. Thane is on the Zoom. If you want to have any questions, you can do. If you have any questions, we're ready to make a motion. I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor,
Tony,
I make a motion that we approve the final acceptance or grant final acceptance of Mahogany Ridge subdivision phases 4 and 5 and release of $109,396.95.
is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Tony, second by Jeffrey. So we grant final acceptance on Mahogany Ridge subdivision phase 4 and 5 and release the remaining escrow of $109,396.95. Is there a discussion on that motion? Okay, seeing no one, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, motion passed unanimously. Okay, Mark, thanks for joining us this evening. Looks like those two we're both passed. You can get with Denise on further information on those two.
Thank you, Mayor, and Gary, thanks for the correction.
Okay. Good to see you, Mark. Take care.
Okay.
Okay, now we move to city reports and business. Let city manager go first, and council let you have a chance to ask any questions or give any input from your department areas. Okay, Ty.
So this first one with the Robinson Waste was actually something we discovered last time. They asked for a cost of living and fuel price increase. So I had already approved that. It's in their contract that on an annual basis, they could do that. And previously, we had adjusted the garbage rate to account for that. So there's no need to increase rates, even though that cost went up a little bit. So it's all within budget. So I just making the council aware that that process had happened. And Steve was under the impression that he still had to put together a proposal, come to council and get it adopted. So that's just for your awareness that the mileage and that increase. So Tony has a question.
When does the existing contract expire, Ty? I think we set it for like 5 years at a time, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll have to look at it.
Okay.
One more time.
I know it had like a fuel surcharge rate or something built into, okay.
Yeah. And yeah, last time he let it go for a couple years before he had asked for an increase. Yeah. So that's the first one. Just a couple personnel things for your information. Ty Flopshire was promoted to our parks and cemetery supervisor. So he's one of our current employees. We've had a pretty good management meeting to have the entire management crew kind of share personnel a little bit better than we have in the past. So we have a little process now where if somebody has a slow day, then they offer them up to the other departments instead of waiting for someone to ask. So what we kind of discovered is use of time. Yeah, you could use some help, but nobody wants to take away from another department. So we're switching the focus to say, hey, I'm just doing this today, but if another department has a more pressing need. So that's kind of what we're going to do through the winter, because this is our first winter with a full parks staff. Which brings me to my next point. During the recruitment process for supervisor, we had an applicant, his name is Isaiah Jackson. He lives in Peterson. His wife works at the elementary school. Really impressed in the interview process. And so I was able to underfill the position that Ty left vacant all at the same time. So we didn't leave a vacancy there, if that makes sense, but we're super excited to have him on board. He's still in school at Weber State. He was on the Weber State football team until he had an injury that he didn't recover from, but super bright kid. He's studying in recreation and that sort of thing, sports and recreation. But just an addition to the team. So we're excited to have him. Just a update. We talked about finishing the basement of this building. I told the council that we applied for a grant. It was 200. We applied for 200,000, not knowing how much the renovations were going to cost. We got an engineer's estimate of $462,000. And so we went back to the grant and provided them the information, and they just awarded us the full amount. So
Great, good work.
So that grant's 462,000.
Who's the grant from?
It's the CDBG, but it's still part of the CARES Act
Okay.
special round of funding that they got. Anyway, accepted that. We have the engineer estimate, and as soon as they give us the go ahead, then we need to put out bids, because the deadline, we committed to have it finished by June. So hopefully we get a contract ready to go and has materials and access to people and
Do it for that amount.
yeah, all the other things. So anyway, that's I think a positive thing where we were trying to figure out how to fund that difference in the grant, the amount. Then we're still working on the bridge. We just went through another review and the engineer estimate on that one's now at 5.5 million, up from 3.8. So I gave you the good news first, settle down. It's insane. It's crazy, but a lot of that's dealing with the federal money. And after the design, we went, just a week ago, we were looking at what they were proposing, and the bridge had a lot of elevation gain on this side of the river, which would put, it would be like a 14-foot elevation from the Jenkins property driveway, and would have to replace about half of their driveway to bring it up to that slope. And so we had discussions about that. And anyway, we have a meeting in the morning to talk about elevating the property on the other side that we own, on the other side. And we're Commercial Street right there is in the railroad property anyway. And so we're talking about abandoning out of there right away, bringing the road onto our property where it's already more elevated, and then sloping back from there. And so it's a much better design. I just looked at, I don't remember what the elevation drop was, but it'll be a lot less impactful and a lot less slope overall, for buses and that sort of thing. So just a lot, it's just way more involved than we imagined. Just all the floodway issues that come with going over that river. So
What were they drilling over there the other day?
they were doing course like sampling for the soils.
For the bridge, right? That's what I thought.
Yep.
So on both sides of the river.
Yep. Yep. Just looking at what soils are there. So the other thing is we had applied for that 1.5 million in gap funding from the Senator Moore had put out there, but that's probably pretty much off the table. That was back when they had the $3 trillion proposal and they cut back, and part of that is they got rid of the earmarks. So one hand sad, we probably are not going to get the 1.5 million. As a citizen, probably good that they I'm not going to enter my own politics, but really it is I will say from a government perspective, it's nice to see them not going back to the earmark days where everything had earmarks in it. They should just pass it, move it to states, and let states manage funds. And so
But on the other hand, Ty, now we'll have to bond for our remaining portion.
potentially, yep. Yep. So some of that's time frame.
One way or another.
Some of that's time frame. I do have, we'll look at it. We do have the additional local option sales tax money. We will pull back on some of the other road projects that we had in the works. We were just gonna kind of keep schedule with that and have the bridge not impact that too much. We do have, the county has been entertaining adopting a local option sales tax. If they do, that would generate more revenue for us as well. We would split that. And then we still don't have, or we've never adopted the gas and electric tax, which would be very low impact. It wouldn't affect property tax, but that would all go general fund. So we're the only city that doesn't, we're the only entity that hasn't implemented that. So it's on gas, natural gas and power.
Is this in Utah?
Is that municipal energy tax? Is that what they call that?
Yeah,
And that can be up to 6%.
yeah. You can do 4, 5, 6%.
We talked about that
So
a few years ago. So
yeah, and so that's just to Dave's question. It's like, yeah, it looks like we need to bond for that. But we could probably, if you remember, last year we were able to put 600,000 towards the bridge. So the bridge goes another 2 years. We put some other money with it. We might be real close to corridor preservation. Yeah, and we're applying for some corridor preservation funds. And then if there are any other
Once we get the
UDOT money, contingency funds. I mean, I'll still be pounding the pavement, trying to, trying to see if we can't get the rest of it funded by the time the bridge is finished, but it's a hard thing to borrow money for something that depreciates the day it's finished. So, but definitely needed, still worth the $2 million grant that we
Still a priority.
got. Yeah, it'll be a big deal. It's just, so anyway, not the end of the world. And that's also an engineer's estimate. So there's the other very slim possibility that when we receive bids that something's less than the engineer estimate. But who knows, in the coming year, what's going on in the world. It's, who knows? Yeah, you could have a recession or something and we could get better pricing than we think. Who knows? Not that we're voting for that. I'm just,
The 1/4%, the option, the 1/4% tax, the option tax.
Mhm.
What did we determine that would generate a year? Or did we,
the one that we did is just over 200,000 a year.
which is almost what our B&C road fund is.
Yeah, it doubles our road budget. Yeah, for sure. So that's where we're at. Another one is, I don't know how much I've talked about this or not, but when we did that substation on Island Road and applied for a interconnection with Rocky Mountain Power, they wanted to charge us a little more than $700,000 to connect because of our impact to them. I've been fighting that for a couple of years, and we got the other day, they came down 350,000, which means we still owe 400, but we're still not, I'm not conceding on that.
So procrastination pays.
It's information. So
Information and knowledge.
yeah, the other thing is the original engineer on our original proposal retired from Rocky Mountain Power and now is on our side. He's actually one that he's been doing some engineering work on our power system, and I had him in a meeting the other day to walk through the Rocky Mountain process, and they're not telling us what the money's for, and it's also basically the requirements are they want us to overbuild, fix their substation for a 138 kV line that doesn't currently exist, nor is on the schedule to be replaced. And so it's not an appropriate cost at any level, but just a lot of time and frustration. I'll just say that this is one, everybody has their little triggers, and I'm a pretty calm guy most time. I think the mayor's probably been on one of those meetings where I feel like I kind of
Got out of control.
gotten out of control.
You're still laid down.
Let's just say it's been
Express your opinion.
express my opinion, and my vocabulary just gets a lot shorter. It's like I have a hard time coming up with intelligent words, and so I resort to other things. But anyway, we're staying on top of that. We have good points to be made. We did agree that we would finish out a permanent connection to get that. It's been filed with FERC, and so that's kind of what's in our back pocket is we have to stick with it. We've committed to the connection, but it has to be appropriate, and that's what we're trying to get to. So I just wanted to I guess since I brought up the bridge going up, that technically we've saved $350,000 on something we shouldn't have to pay. Another thing that the county is working on adopting a fee schedule for the fire inspections. So they've never charged that. We've never charged it and passed it on. Dave Rich has just always done inspections for free. And I think it's a really good move that they at least, we're paying for his time to review plans and go do inspections and that sort of thing. And they've never charged for that. So instead of just asking the city for more money when they need it, they're actually looking at, generating their own revenue for the service that they provide. So it's a long long time coming, but I just bring it up because if they adopt that, we will adopt whatever that rate is for that particular inspection in our building permit process. So I'll bring that once we know for another fee schedule amendment. And that one will probably just be one that we refer to whatever the county fee schedule is, but just write it in, so. So I've been back and forth with a resident about a water leak that they had and written letters, and I've got a 2-pager here if you're interested. Basically, I just wanted to make sure I did a follow through and basically it comes down to water that passes through the meter. The homeowners are responsible for that water. And right now I don't have anything that I can find that allows me to discount or not charge them for the water that passed through their meter, even if it was for a leak. And so if there's any appetite to explore that as a council, I can do that. The problem is it's equivalent to saying, hey, why is my power bill high when I left town and left the lights on, but I didn't get to use that light because it passed through. And not that it's the exact same thing, but because that's kind of user error. But when you have a leak, the incentive is to get it fixed because you're responsible for the water that comes through the meter. And there's no magic calculation on any given month that says how much of that went into the ground versus how much of it was. And the longer that goes, the more that bill is. And so
It's still leaking.
the leak was fixed. It was discovered and fixed. Our guy even showed up and we provided parts that we normally don't provide and helped get the leak detected. It's also, not something that we necessarily do. So in my mind, it's I'm really proud of the work that the guys did because of the year that we've had to get the leak fixed, but the particular resident is comparing us to insurance and thinks, well, if it's an accident, then my deductible should cover that and the city should just eat those costs. So
I have a question on that, and I think I brought this up a couple of months ago. So I'm not on equal pay, so using myself for an example, if I'm cruising along and I see I'm using 5,000 or 6,000 gallons a month, when I see, when I look at my bill, but then suddenly I use 60, well, obviously that's a heads up to me that something's not right,
Mhm.
A couple of things. So if and I don't know how the equal pay works, would I pick that up if I was on equal pay?
depends on your own, how you do your own billing. You'd notice that your bill was more in that following month.
I guess
You had a leak.
I guess my question is I don't know who the letter's from, but when I was out and about, I had a good
Sure. discussion
with somebody about this. Is there any way to flag that for an individual that, hey, we just red flag that you're using a lot more. I mean, yes, there is responsibility of the homeowner. I understand that, but I just wonder if there's a way you can flag that and let that homeowner know that something's not right.
Yeah, so there's definitely all kinds of options, but right now it's not until the meters are read. And then it's a monthly report. It's a manual process. But then it's a matter of how much time we want to be spending in other people's, hey, we noticed this, and it's not an automated, computer generated call or anything like that. But, hey, we noticed this. You have a running toilet, or did you fill up your swimming pool? Did you have all your family home this weekend? We don't know what it is. We just noticed a spike in your either energy or water usage. And so there's give and take. It's just how much we want to be responsible. So if something does flag and we have said, well, we're going to notify anybody anytime we see a discrepancy on their bill, we're taking a little bit more of that ownership as a city.
Wouldn't the Wouldn't the notification come from their bill? I mean, they see a big increase in the monthly amount.
Let me,
Well, eventually, I mean.
So,
let me address that just a minute.
Okay.
For my, if I see it happening. If somebody is looking at their bill every month, then they would notice it. Yes, David, it's on their bill if they look at it. But the situation we have, a lot of folks never look at their bill.
But they pay it.
And right, in today's world, a lot of folks just have their bank account set up to pay the bill automatically.
Right.
And they never, ever even balance their checkbook. So they have no idea how much money has been paid for that bill. There are a lot of folks more and more doing that, and they don't look at that. So that's part of the situation is if my bill comes and my bank just automatically pays it, I have no idea they paid another $100 or $200 more than what they paid last month. If I'm not looking at it. That's one situation. The other piece is if I'm an equal pay, what happened with that is in January, you look at what their average bill was for the last 12 months, say it was $75. And they just pay $75 every month. And they got set up on equal pay. Their bank just pays $75 every month. So they never look at their bill. So they never know that their bill all of a sudden was $200 to $75. They never look at it. And they don't look at their usage. They don't look at their usage. Say their usage have been averaging 6,000 a month or 8,000 a month. Now I'm all of a sudden at 50,000 gallons a month. They never look at that. That's part of the situation. So the question is, how much of that piece do we want to take on as a city to get into people's business? And what levels? Me and my wife, just two of us. We use 3,000 gallons of water a month and minimal electricity. The month of December, my whole family's home. We have multiple parties, so we end up using twice that much. Should I expect a phone call from the city in January saying, oh, your use doubled in January? Did you have a family party or just want to let you know? Do I want them in my business to tell me that? Or in the summer, 1 month, my full family comes home. So my usage that month doubles. Do I want the city to call in and say, hey, we noticed your usage just doubled? Do I want them in my business? That's one question. The other question is after somebody's gone 3 or 4 months and their usage keeps climbing, at that point, we want to get in their business and say, we noticed your water used to be 8, 9, 12,000, now it's at 80,000 gallons a month. So there's some parameters there. And I guess what I think what Ty's asked, what we've kind of talked about is the council wants to look at that and develop some parameters. If that makes any sense to you. Now, if I have a leak and I'm all of a sudden using 50,000 gallons of water a month, I've only been using 8 in the past, and yeah, that's a big increase, a big flaw. But yeah, Stephanie pulls those reports every month. I've been having her do that, and she looks at the heavy users. Those people that are using 300, 400, 1,000, 10,000, 300, 400,000 gallons a month or 10,000 gallons a month. She pulls those and looks at those, and then Chad goes out and visits with those people. We're doing that on the heavy end, but we're not doing a month. This is our Ty's referring to. They went along great for a while, and then their usage started to increase a bit. And there's others we looked at the same way. So the question is, do you want to notify people? If so, at what level? How do you establish those levels? Go ahead. There's a bunch of people, and they never look, most of them, some do. Most of them never ever even look at their bill or look at their, to see what they're using. They just pay their $73 a month.
What does equal pay make the adjustment?
Okay, what Steph does is halfway through the year, if their bill's climbing, they've got a deficit, she will then send them a note saying, hey, you have this deficit, thank you, deficit, and your bill is $400 instead of $70. We come in and talk to us, and they come in and visit staff, and Steph either adjusts their equal pay to pay that out over the next 6 months, or they pay that off and start over again to equal pay. Yeah, and at the end of the year, Steph goes through every one of those, and she'll recalculate what their yearly, what their monthly average has been in the past 12 months, and she'll give them a new balance at the end of, at the first of the next year. That's how it's currently working.
So those adjustments are made annually?
The adjustments are made annually unless you get $400 or $500 in the negative, and then Steph will call in
Okay.
a 6-month review. She does 6-month review and an annual adjustment.
Yeah, I could see an annual adjustment creeping up, but I appreciate her looking at
You get
the,
the 6 month, but then some of those
steep ones.
adjustments have been $500-600.
yeah,
Well, that one on linkage, it was $600 that he owed. He was blissfully just paying his $70.
yeah.
So Steph's saying, they're saying, hey, we need to talk. Please come and visit because your bill is $600.
The point of the letter is, after we've figured all that out, settled it, is they don't feel like that they should have to pay for water that didn't enter their house because of the leak.
What's the dollar amount that they're behind?
They've caught up, they paid the full amount, they're just not happy about it.
So I'm not on equal pay. So does the equal pay, is it sort of like my Dominion bill? I am on equal pay with Dominion, and it'll show me a credit or a debit. I'll pay my equal pay, but it'll show me, okay, this far your
If you look at your bill,
credits this much or your debits. Does that do it on our?
You get a statement every,
if you look at your bill.
you get a statement every single time. So we have options. There's
the
equal
bill
pay.
don't- the bill don't look
You
like
can
that.
also set up an account in Express Pay where it just pays the actual amount every single month, and you can review that.
Right.
So you don't have to initiate the payment.
But you gotta review it. People don't review it.
Yeah, so there's some options, and it's just personal preference, but I'm not sure that the
Dave,
equal pay is the,
Dave, in your knowledge back at the bank, how many people would call in and say, what's my balance today?
It happens regularly.
Yeah, people don't balance their checkbook. They have no idea how much money they've got. They'll call the bank and say, bank, how much money is in my checkbook?
Well, when they
today?"
call is they can't buy groceries for dinner, so something's up. Yeah, that's when we get the call.
So, hey, input from the council.
I do. I
Go
got
ahead.
some. I've thought about this a bit. You know, I'm on equal pay here, I believe.
You don't pay any bills, right?
I don't pay any bills. Why would you do that?
Wife does.
But I remember one time that my father had that situation where there was legitimately a leak from the meter to his house, and it was going down into the gravel. And thankfully, the city came within a couple of months and said, "We believe you got a leak in your system." He had no clue and no idea because he was losing major amounts of water. No idea. And so they came and, like, this situation, helped figure it out, find it out, and was able to fix that situation. But it was only until somebody came and made him aware of it. And the mayor brought up that situation of his family coming over December. Well, yeah, you may see a spike, but I believe if you see a resident that, we'll use that same scenario, we'll start now. December, that climbs, and then you see in January that stays level, and February you see it stays level up that higher level. Guess what that would tell me right away?
Red flag.
That's a red flag that something's going wrong. And I think that as a city, we ought to be, after 2 or 3 months, stepping in and saying, there's a situation here, and granted, maybe, but you'd see that trend go up. In my opinion. So after 2 or 3 months, there would be that anomaly of Ray's family coming over. That would be a spike up and down, back down. Because in January, it's just
so
him and Ruth. But if it went like this and it stayed up here in January, it'd be
In February.
February. There's a problem.
yeah, so we're constantly monitoring for leaks. I'm not saying that we don't want to monitor for leaks. What I'm saying is that if you had a leak and your bill went up, and we're saying, oh, because we didn't notify you somehow, there's a process in place that says, it's a bad situation, whatever it is, but I don't have any policy in place that says if you had a leak, then you don't owe your X amount, or is it half, or do we want to get into that business of, well, it didn't go into my house, and so, we don't charge them for the water that passed through the meter. And I'm not saying one way or the other. I'd rather focus on that end of the policy than so much on, you know, on the, who's responsible to. That's kind of what Tony brought up is, hey, do we have a way to red flag things? Which, yeah, we do, but a lot of times it's on a monthly basis, not like,
So
you know.
somebody asked another question while I do some math here. Okay, so back to my example. So I have a leak. I'm not aware of it in your father's situation, okay? I'm not aware of it till I get my bill. And now instead of, I'm paying $31, my bill's $416 because I just went 52,000 over. I did not know that. I guess what I'm thinking should there be some value in me as a homeowner running out immediately and fixing that leak and coming to the city and saying, okay, I wasn't aware, I fixed it as quickly as I could. Can I have some sort of
Adjustment.
a little bit of help with this $416 bill?
That's what Ty's asking, what we want to do.
I believe,
Yeah, so right now, and right now, what the incentive or the thank you is that you don't have 2 of those months in a row or 3 of those months in a row. You don't ignore it because you're responsible for that water.
Right.
So if it's like, well, I know that the city is gonna just discount half the bill or 3/4 of the bill, or is it like what those conditions are? I just don't feel comfortable saying, oh, because you had this situation, then our staff's gonna say you owe, but you don't, you knew about it, you didn't. You know what I'm saying? It's
I
like,
agree.
Right.
After the second month, shame on you, and the third month, shame on you.
oh,
You know, I mean, you should have got it fixed immediately, or, you know, and I guess that's all I'm saying is if somebody's conscientious and doesn't realize it, runs out there and gets it fixed immediately after the first billing period, when they realize they have a problem. I don't know, can we help them out with that? I mean, but I'm not saying, obviously, if that goes on month 2 and month 3 and month 4, then that's your fault. You're not taking care of that leak. You know, we're not gonna.
yep. So anyway, we just don't have anything, and
How we want to do it.
it can even be a process situation where you say, well, that's gather all your stuff and ask the city council, and you retain the authority to make adjustments.
Well, I think a policy would be better if you were going to do it. Because city council go one way one time and another way the other.
The same with staff though. Like it's hard to,
Right, but hence, if there's any consideration at all,
Not
just
in
throw it out in a
writing.
policy.
Gary's looking at us like, are you guys nuts? I mean, Gary, I'll ask this question, is there an option to make a policy that would somehow do what we're talking about? Negotiate with somebody on a,
Yeah, you can always do that. Here's my concern. We don't put a fence around the reservoir. In North Lake. There's a reason. Is when you then accept responsibility. Same thing applies. You accept responsibility for watching bills, whether or not there's you all of a sudden have accepted responsibility previous to the city. And is now the city. Can you do it? Yes. You can do it. I would put into play standard policy that we'll forgive up to $100 or 50% of the bill in the first month, but after that, something like that. But you don't want to get into a position where you're monitoring bills when they should be monitoring themselves, because it will then become your situation and you will have to deal with it. You've accepted responsibility for their leaks.
Great way to put it. Thanks, Gary.
Same reason we don't put a fence over on Riverside Park.
Right. Once you accept responsibility for something, it increases what you do.
Liability.
I don't know if that helps.
it does.
I don't think we need to get in the position of monitoring people's bills for them. I agree with you there. I don't think that's a job. I'm just wondering if somebody becomes aware of it and they take care of it immediately. Is there some grace that could be given there? But that's, I guess, my point.
In that scenario, is there, Gary?
Sure. I would encourage just today's work, just about policy that, you can forgive X number of
I mean, and even to do that, it shows that there's some concern on the city's part, but yet their concern is limited. But we feel for you and here's some help. It may only cover 10% of your problem, but nonetheless, we just haven't shut the door on you.
Blanket policy, because it's starting to get into, well, did they realize it or didn't they? And, that's tough for the staff to make.
And I could see where it helped the staff to clean it up. Well, you had the water leak, you fixed it. This is what we can do for you. Here's our policy.
So Eric said that the water goes back into the ground.
It does.
Resell the water, problem solved.
We're just building up the aquifer, Dave. That's all we're doing. Yeah, we should give them a
Yeah,
credit on a
yeah.
drought year.
Yeah, exactly.
Just kidding.
Putting it back in. Your thoughts, Ty? I mean, do we need something? Is it, if nothing happened, is it still manageable? You know the resources of the
That's-
manpower of the city.
Yeah, it's not very often. What I want to do is have consistency and I want something to point to. So I'm good one way or the other. I think the compassion and the customer service, I think we've done a really good job of extending that, like, it is what it is. Nobody's blaming anybody. It's just the situation that it was, but home ownership has its responsibilities and I just want to make sure we're on the right side as far as the council's concerned about how far we get into people's business, but I also don't mind a policy that says that same thing, like, well, this is your third time under this situation, and we've trained people that it's like, well, don't worry about it. Claim a leaky toilet, and the city will discount it, right? Because I'm not gonna be able to prove or disprove if someone's toilet was running the entire time. I don't know what the spike is.
My kid took too long of a shower.
Yeah, or whatever it is, or
I didn't know it.
and really any leak or any leak inside we don't know about a lot of those. We help on the big ones. Like we've done a lot of work on trying to get that. So it's just wherever your comfort level is and what you want to offer. But I just don't want it to be arbitrary, and I don't want it to be, I don't know. In my own mind, I think like the worst case scenario would be like, oh, we have a city manager, you decide, right?
Yeah.
It's like we've given you the authority to adjust people's bills. No, please don't.
Let's talk
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Thanks, Ty. We just
Yeah.
took care of the problem.
Yeah, nice.
talk frequency though. Ty, over a given year period, how many of these events would you deal with?
Well, leaks, we've had tons this year.
Yeah,
But
because of the drought, for
But
sure.
there's also a lot of them that have been fixed, but not very many of them come guns loaded saying, hey, you're my insurance company and I had an accident, you have to pay, and how much that money doesn't cost the city anything, or that water doesn't cost the city anything. And if, it's like, well, it's just a level of expectation and responsibility. So that doesn't happen very often. We probably have 2 or 3, and then, other ones have left a hose on,
Understand.
for a long time, got a huge bill, didn't think that was fair. And they're right. It's like, it's probably the worst use of water, huge bill. And so it's nice to say, yeah, we have the ability, but the parameters and the conditions are so wide and varied. That's a point
So-
that I kind of worry about.
If nothing happened, if there were no action, are you able to continue on? Can you still do what you've done in the past? And
Yeah.
it's not going to cause you a lot.
Yeah, it's just, the other thing is I'm bringing up this communication on behalf of an individual, and the other part's like, you have the option to come to city council anytime you want and say you don't feel like you've been treated fairly. I always give people that option too. You don't have to be happy about it. You don't have to agree. We just are really trying to be consistent. And that's what I'm all about. And I'm not saying that it's compassionate or not, and everybody can kind of fill through that, but anyway, that's
Yeah,
kind of where we're at.
Consistency is going to avoid exposure and liability too, so.
And a lot of leaks end up in a homeowner's insurance policy situation where it caused damage and stuff. So it's just a whole wide world of all the possible contingencies out there. And I feel bad, and it's a lot of money for water that was not used, but didn't cause a bankruptcy or anything else. And we're at,
Maybe we continue to monitor, and if situations get worse, we look at a policy. But I'm going to suggest that, my feeling would be we continue on as we've done.
okay. Another next step I haven't taken is I can pull other city managers and see what other cities might have in place.
Thoughts, Jeffrey?
Well, I think we can continue to move how we are. If we need to visit it again, if we're seeing more issues as we get better meters and tracking a little better, and we may have to visit this again next summer, depending on where we're at, but I think we can allow staff to continue monitoring and helping where we can.
I'm good with that, Mayor. Yeah, I'm fine. I just brought it up, food for thought.
Right, that's fine. Eric?
I would love to see, don't lose sleep over this one, Ty, but I'd like to see what other cities have got in place for this. If they're doing anything, just to take a little, what?
I'd be all right with that.
I'd like to know if they've got anything in place, or if it's just us.
One city, Gary could comment on anything there. Okay.
Well,
And
there's all levels, right? I already know when I asked, and a lot of the cities are gonna say, well, we have updated meters and we
Yeah.
have an app built, so you can go on our website and
Right.
monitor your real-time usage and my
Yeah.
current year-to-date, like,
Gallons.
how bad a weekend was that?
Well, don't ask Clayton City.
No, I'm just saying, no, I'm saying, but the reality is that there are meters and systems
Right.
in place where you can go to the full extent, bells, whistles. I lived in a city when I was out in my garage with a space heater and I got a call, right? Your usage is spiking. I don't know what's going on. Are you aware?
Yeah, it was law enforcement.
Yeah, I'm freezing out in my garage doing some work in the middle of the winter, right? So it's like, appreciate the call, but did I turn my heater off? No. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? So it's like,
Stay out of my business.
Mhm. I was from a co-op that owned their power system down there, but we don't have that ability, so it's tons of investment in brand new meters and
Could that be part of a water study that we keep saying we'll eventually do?
yeah, no, we're headed on the path of technology. It's just, setting those parameters. But I'm just saying, when I do poll the cities, that we are gonna get a huge response. So if I just kind of get the feedback, it's still kind of up to us what you feel is the appropriate next step, or if we just keep going like we are. So thanks for the discussion.
Good discussion.
I don't know that we resolved anything, but well, we did.
It's always therapeutic.
He already is.
Yeah, and that doesn't open any doors for,
Yeah.
yeah, just final thing is, we have our annual Christmas party scheduled. So it's December 17th from 1 to 4. So you're all invited with families. We just reserve the bowling alley and then have pizza and soda. The staff have a little traveling trophy for,
It's December 17th, a Friday.
yeah. Yeah, the kids get out of school at 12:30. Yeah. If you're awake by then, Tony.
On that
You have to see if you get off work.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
have to see if we get off work.
I got a tight schedule, Tony.
I just encourage you to, if you're available to show up, it's a really good opportunity to rub shoulders with the staff and just kind of let her,
Yeah, summer party was a great event.
I was gonna say, let our
enjoyed
hair
that.
down, but Dave and I are, and definitely, Steve, you're invited as well. Yeah, for that, it'd be good.
What was the time again?
1 to 4, 17th. So I imagine we'll put out a little email or flyer on it. We usually make a little invite.
Prime rib, Dave.
What time is hometown Christmas start?
Yeah, what day?
So that's starts at 2:00 on December 4th. It's home down Christmas. Santa arrives at 2:15, so it kind of kicks off at 2. They'll be setting up and then goes, and I think tree lighting's around 5:30 or when it gets dark. So yeah, we've been working with the chamber on that whole day schedule. It's kind of interesting because we're running out of vacant buildings on Commercial Street to house everything. So the tree festival is going to be in 4 different locations using lobbies. So I look at that as a plus.
Need more commercial space.
Around the corner down to my garage, my rent would be relatively cheap if you want to put something in my garage.
What's that?
I said you can come around the corner down to my garage and put something in there. Rent will be cheap.
Yeah. All the lights plug in though, so your power bill is going to go up. That's all I have, Mayor.
Hey, and thanks to you and the chamber for 1 million kids at Thanksgiving. Holy man, that's a lot of people walking the sidewalks. Or Halloween, yeah, not Thanksgiving, Halloween. Wow,
I should say.
that brings a lot of people.
Yep. Every time it lands on a Saturday it's the win, right?
And
They're
good
all
weather.
dressed up and ready to go to.
Wow, that's a lot of people out.
So just thank the business community because it's not us or the chamber. Nobody's in charge of it. That's why it works out so well. It's a spontaneous thing and they can shut the roads down if they want or help with traffic control or not. But pretty much it's kind of cool that it just all happens. So
Anything else, Jeffrey? Jeff? Tony? All right.
I do. I'd like to follow up on something. Here a while ago, we had Jennifer Vesper come with her chicken thing, and we talked about an animal ordinance.
Oh, that's right.
Have we done anything with that, Ty? We talked about doing that with some of the animals in the yards and the size of the lots.
Denise has worked on it.
yeah, we
Hope it together. We use some stuff from Lake. They've worked on it. It's not finalized yet.
But we're working on it. Okay.
Yeah, Denise has spent time on it.
I was actually thinking about that the other
You
day.
got some input on
Yeah, have any specific thing you'd like to see
it.
proposed? Like specific number? I think what we arrived at was roosters were the issue. More so than the number. Space requirements are tough, proximity to fences.
My only concern about the roosters, and maybe this is just like, again, past experience, oftentimes you get the straight runs, I think is what they call that. You'll get your chicks and they'll call them a straight run, and lo and behold, guess what? Well, somehow, some way, a rooster happened to fall into that when they were loading them, and here you are stuck with a rooster that you didn't want to, and pretty soon your kids are attached to it, and pretty soon you're
As a name.
yeah, and it has a name, and pretty soon they're, that's how that works, but
You wanna start a thing where the city manager disposes of. roosters?
exactly, that's what I'm talking about.
For children.
This wasn't on record.
Another policy, Ty.
I gotta bite my tongue anyway. But turn my mic off and
No, so we're still working. on it.
anyway. But just like to follow up on that. And, I mean, I get where roosters could be a problem, but
Excuse me.
again, this comes down to that kind of the thing that we're talking about, do you want to have a policy in place and who's poor Ty's going to have to go execute that?
Execute the rooster.
Execute the policy to execute the rooster, but anyway. But I think it really, and maybe you're already working on this, I think that needs to boil down to the size of the lot. Obviously, if you're on a little teeny lot, it just wouldn't make sense to have some, livestock or something back there. But if you got a bigger lot, I think it would work. I think it would apply. So something to deal with the square footage of the lot. Maybe that's the road you're heading down, Denise, but
Anything else?
nope.
Yeah, question for Gary. In our discussion tonight regarding, the land use, it was clear, and Tony and I know because we attended both meetings, but it's clear there's information that was presented tonight that wasn't made available to the Planning Commission. Would it be appropriate, and I realize we're not changing decisions because the decision is a decision, but would it be appropriate to survey one or more Planning Commission members with the additional information and see what their thoughts or feelings would be?
Not the survey, but you can always send something back to the planning commission. You don't have to, because new information.
Sure. Yeah.
If you thought it might make a difference, the way the planning commission might decide, you send it back to the planning commission, but if they're pretty much unanimous, unless it's really startling information.
Yeah.
You can certainly make a decision based on the new information.
I think some of the concern on my part, maybe I'm just being too sensitive, but it comes from and I've heard the comments made that it doesn't matter what we do, the city council oftentimes reverses us and does what they want anyway. They're not sensitive, for example, to what we're about. Why have a planning commission? How can we maybe mitigate that a little bit?
Two ways that I know. One is if you really do have a legitimate issue, you can send it back
Mm-hmm.
and have them discuss it. Another thing that ought to happen from time to time, right? City council and planning commission where you both, you maybe do a little training and discuss issues like the one you're talking about, because there seemed to be a fundamental issue there.
Mm-hmm.
The fundamental issue was multifamily housing, commercial, mixed use. Those three issues came up tonight. Those would be great issues to discuss in a joint work meeting between the city council and planning commission, just so they understand what you're thinking.
Sure. Yeah, we've had a division, or at least I feel that up to now.
Well, in my perspective, the next meeting, they are going to receive some training, so some ongoing training, but the perspectives are different, right? So the council focuses more on what it is that we want and we don't want. The planning commission focuses more on what's on the books, like what are our codes currently
Sure.
allowed
Yeah,
and
do they meet
not
or
allowed. And so
yeah, don't they?
one thing I hear a lot of in the meetings is in the planning commission is a lot, well, we don't want this, we don't want that, whatever's desirable, which is fine, but not as much discussion on, how does this change fundamentally the land use? Because in that discussion, we didn't go through the general plan, didn't say we want X amount of square feet of commercial and X amount of feet of, whatever, and how has that played out over the past so many years? And so it's not as maybe rigid as we treat it.
That brings up the question, though, would the planning commission be making decisions that should be reserved for the council? In other words, their decision would be to Mr. Developer, your request meets the criteria, hence a favorable recommendation.
That's what it should be, more in their opinion.
So maybe that's part of where the training needs to come, or the
Yeah.
education component.
So sometimes they just use their opinion rather than what the
See, and
rule
that's,
really is. For
maybe that's what we've been
example-
given
for
is their
example,
opinion on
Back
this
in that
one.
one prior subdivision, we had the developer redesign that thing 3 times because of the opinion of the chair.
Mhm.
it wasn't because it was right or wrong, because the staff recommended the opinion of the chair. And he changed the design 3 different times, a pretty good chunk of money because of the chair's opinion, not because of what the ordinance allowed or didn't allow.
Yeah, should those opinions be coming to this body here?
And I would say the
That
same
was
thing
the
happens with
ordinance.
staff recommendations. So
Sure.
the staff also do a lot of homework and effort into, this is what we think should happen.
Does
And
it
it goes to
meet the
planning and
requirements?
zoning. And sometimes it's like, well, we appreciate the staff's comments, but
They
But we
ignored the
see it
staff
differently.
recommendation.
But here's our opinion.
here's, and then it goes through that process. And so the idea that all three need to all be the same all the time, I think is also not
Sure.
necessarily the goal, because it's not a rubber stamping process. And we respect that as staff, right? When we,
Well, and staff
We say-
respects us too.
well, so when staff makes a comment and say, we don't see any negative impact,
Right.
we would love to hear that discussion come up in a meeting, but we don't. We didn't, right? Like public hearing, either public hearing, not a lot of additional information because as staff, we're like, well, maybe we're missing something. And somebody at a public hearing will say, oh, back when this happened, this is how it all came about. And here's a bunch of perspectives that we're missing. Or do you see what I'm saying? We understand that it's all doable, but as a council, we feel this is the direction we want to go as a city. We accept that, but we're prepared when we make staff recommendations that they're gonna maybe go one way or the other, and we're okay with that as well. It doesn't have to all be, we all agree across the board on each proposal, so.
That may,
I appreciate you asking the question, Dave. I appreciate bringing that up.
yeah, that's a great discussion and helps in the understanding. And I think there's some work to be done there, Ray.
Even though we have some guys that dedicate their time and appreciate these plans.
Exactly.
Greatly,
Yeah.
but they're all relatively young and new. And so they don't have the background of the ordinance.
Mhm.
Because quite frankly, and again, they're not getting paid anything, they're just volunteering, doing the best they can, but they don't have a good background in the ordinance. And we've kind of been in between Steve and
Yeah.
new planner and so forth.
Yeah.
So they've been trying to do it based on what they think and feel, which I appreciate them very much doing that. But really their role is, if it meets the ordinance, you really shouldn't deny it based on, I don't like it.
Bingo.
Um,
Gary's nodding yes.
Do
That-
that. It meets the ordinance,
Yeah,
but they deny it based on, I don't like it.
I think that's the answer to the problem right there.
Another
Can't do that.
component that doesn't help us tonight is our new planner, Wilf.
Mhm.
That contract is written so that there's the monthly retainer planning services, but there's another side of it for ordinance update and things like that. So support to the planning commission that we haven't necessarily offered in the past because of the time and effort involved. So if something comes up and we say, yeah, we're, based on what we have, this fits and it fits, but we don't like it, then the follow-up to that is like, what don't you like about it? And go do some ordinance work beforehand, before it comes, so that it's not part of that discussion.
Exactly.
And we haven't done a good job.
There's ordinance.
We haven't done a good job giving the planning commission that level of staff support. I know it doesn't help tonight, but as we move forward, new general plan, that contract in place, that's what I'm hopeful of, is that we do the work before it becomes an issue. We pre-think of proposals as they come into our development meeting, right? Someone comes into the development meeting and we're like, oh, I can see a problem with that proposal, and we can start looking around in different areas where maybe a less than desirable outcomes being proposed, but
So
that's in the future, so that's not gonna fix.
So Gary, you made the point tonight, and you've made it several times. I appreciate it. On a master plan change, there either had to be an A, a mistake, or B, a change of surrounding area. And to me, that's horribly ambiguous. I mean, you know what I mean? It's absolutely hardly any help to me whatsoever, because particularly has there been a change in the surrounding area. And so the other comment I want to make, and it was interesting that sometimes between the time the planning commission hears it and the time we hear it, that developer, and Dave backed me up on that, that developer will bring in new information to the city council that was not given to.
Well, that happened tonight.
Now, when I realized we could make a decision based on tax income, okay? To your point tonight, but that was, and it shouldn't have made any difference, but just, I guess my point is, that was never presented to the planning commission. But so sometimes I feel like we're hearing a little different story than what the planning commission heard. And anyway, which is sometimes,
Gary, just while we're on the subject, the upcoming training for the planning commission, will that be provided by Steve? Is he doing that?
At the next meeting.
you know.
He's doing that at the
Think-
next meeting next.
Yeah, do you
Tuesday.
think, would it be appropriate for you to maybe pass on some of the concerns here to him and in particular, so he could address that? Sweet. Similar.
Yeah, I met with him today. He's gonna start with just 101. And then as he works with council, he'll take training opportunities to how you run meetings, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, we can use the training too, for sure.
Every city council meeting, I take, not every, because they sometimes, there's not enough time to do it. But I take 10 minutes. training
Mhm.
principle.
Mhm.
And I've noticed that.
Mhm.
And the same thing could happen. Really, 10 minutes is all we can cover legislative, administrative acts. Difference between those two, social meetings, there's a myriad of things. People latch on to those, especially somebody like planning commissioners who have prior experience. It would be great for Will to take just 10 minutes, just no more than 10 minutes from your busy schedule to talk about the difference between a legislative decision and administrative. Yeah, there we go. Planning commission, how that differs in the way that you think about it. Administrative, you don't even have the right to do anything outside the ordinance. Legislative, you give a recommendation to council, you have a little more leeway, but it still just can't be how you feel about it and feel like this. So that's what, 2.5 minutes, just like that. I
Yes.
started to mark things on the agenda for my city council, like administrative or legislative.
Mhm.
They do the same thing. They know, I've got to look at the ordinance when it has a name.
Mhm.
Or I feel a little more leeway when it doesn't. But those types of things, I think will.
Would he be the one that could recommend or suggest that to the planning commission? Where would that advice come from?
Yeah, he could do it. Wolf can do it, yeah.
Yeah, so I could relay that.
Bingo.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
I
That,
think that'd be great.
it'd be a start in maybe turning things around that seem to be going the wrong way.
I know this, they really,
Yeah.
and there's some great training by the league as well.
Yeah.
They really need to get online because planning commissions are required to have 4.
Denise, you want to mention that, the training? You want to mention that training coming up so everybody's here to wear and invite them to attend?
That's really good training.
Okay. I think we've started on a course correction. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Those in training, there's,
She did.
I mean, for the new elected official training. This month and next month, there's some training for new elected officials.
I saw that.
If you've already seen that, we'd like to invite you to consider that if your schedule permits. I think Ty's gonna go. I think Juana's gonna
Was it
go.
in person?
Dave, huh?
Is it in person?
Yeah, yes. There might be virtual,
Yeah,
portion to it. It can't be in person. I think it's both. Yeah, correct. I encourage you to consider doing that. It's gonna help us as you as a council and understand your responsibilities as well. If Wanda or Denise is taking care of that, contact Wanda or Denise if you're interested in going, they can sign you up.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ty.
So just a final pop quiz for the city council, because a lot of our discussion is tax base, and I hear this a lot in the community, but does the council know what our current commercial tax base is for the city? So in our general fund, what % is generated from commercial versus residential property tax. Tony.
Sales tax versus property
Yeah.
tax?
How about
Yeah, but-
commercial versus?
Oh, I thought you meant property tax versus sales tax.
Yeah,
Property versus
35,
70-30.
sales tax to property tax.
Yeah, yep. And it's interesting because in the county, I hear this a lot, like we're upside down, our property taxes are so high because we don't have any commercial. And our city situation is not the county situation. And so for the property available, I think it's just important to know, we didn't increase property taxes. Remember when we did that? We have a really healthy economy and it's growing from the internal. It's coming from the inside out. And so the tendency is we feel like we've lost an opportunity that'll never come back sometimes, one way or the other. But what's happening is Amazon, online, all comes to us with zero property.
Lowe's,
Um,
Nancy's dresses, whatever.
Yeah, yep. So visitation, the hotel's adding quite a bit, and so even with Jay's being closed, as long as it is, that money shows up in other businesses. So our local economy, it's not, yeah, right. So what I'm saying is we have a very stable internal economy, and I don't know that translates to, and we shouldn't be talking necessarily revenue, but I hear a lot of the fear factor in our decision making because we're scared to lose opportunities. But our current reality is very healthy economy that's finding ways to grow in little, however that happens. And yeah, it's not big industry, but a lot of big industry doesn't bring much. You use a whole bunch of space and we don't get sales tax from wholesalers.
Or we would take another cement plant in the county, that would help out a little bit.
But not in the city.
Sales tax from car sales, is that?
Yeah, it's up there. No, it's up.
Really? Because you drive by and you see big holes in the lot.
Yeah.
If they don't have inventory, they don't have sales. But
Well, and it's throughput. A lot of it's gone to part or used car sales. So they still buy and sell cars. A lot of what's on the lot is actually owned by Chevy or Ford, or Dodge and,
the manufacturer.
yep. And they decide how many they put on each lot.
Their sales of vehicles, even though their inventory is down, they're selling more vehicles than they did before.
Sweet. Good for everybody. It's
The car
a win.
dealership.
Well, wait a minute, we heard that, never mind.
Yeah.
You want to bring that up? No. So anyway, I'm not trying to convince anybody. I just think it's important to understand our own situation where we're at.
It's interesting. I've tracked the sales tax for 4 or 5 years. I even told Tony before. So there's a couple of years ago, our average used to be somewhere around 75, 80,000 a year, or excuse me, a month. Now we're hitting over 100,000 a month consistently. So we're at 30,000 more a month than we did 3 years ago on average.
Did you budget for that?
Mhm.
No, you knew that it was coming.
Yeah, we've
already
been through the budget. I did
already
I did
spend it?
projections, but I do conservative projections.
Okay.
Thank
do
you,
that.
Mayor, he's getting all these packages from Amazon and.
Well, but some of it is our population's growing slowly, and there's also a little bit more out of county or, out of area money coming to the gas stations and, visitation to East Canyon, the scenic byway, the events, bikers, school activities, they all contribute a little bit at a time, but it's pretty healthy. Sales tax, that's
the formula where it's at.
Yeah,
Is that
comes up
our
all the time, but
developer friends that are causing that trouble?
They think that there's less incentive for commercial into your jurisdictions. And it's based entirely on population. That you will put more housing. That's the plus.
Because they also don't understand that we're not making decisions based on revenue. We're making decisions based on land use premise. Yep.
So you've already got your hands full. Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Okay, meeting adjourned.